Hey, it's Nicole here. I just wanted to say that this is episode 3 recap of the Traitors. So if you haven't watched episode 1 or 2, you can find those episodes if you're on YouTube in the same playlist as the Traitors, or I'll have links to the videos below. If you're on the podcast app, just look in the feed and they will be right there for you. Anyways, moving forward with the Traitors recap episode 3 with Sabiyah Broderick.
Going into episode 3 now, we start with Parvati, Phaedra, and Dan talking about the murder. First of all, Parvati was like, "Oh my god, you guys are doing so great. We're in the turret. I'm here. Who are we gonna murder?" So Parvati says maybe Deontay because he's a physical threat. They consider Marcus because he's smart, protected by Lisa, and people really value his opinion, which we learned from the mission. And then they think maybe Janelle because people listen to her. So, what are your reactions to these 3 names being thrown out?
Now, I can tell you that before I watched the 3rd episode, I already knew they were going to pick Marcus because of what he said to Dan when they were on the couch. You remember he was like basically coming for him, like telling him like, you don't talk. I was watching, and to see like who wasn't talking or who wasn't doing this and wasn't doing that. And it's you, man. Like he came for Dan.
Yeah.
In that, it was like he was saying it, but he was leaving it kind of like unsaid. And I remember I'm watching, I'm like, they got to get Marcus. Like, immediately. Immediately. Because even the way he said it, it was like again, like dog was the policy. I keep using that. Like, it's stuff that you say that only the person that's hit knows that it's for them.
Yeah.
And in that situation, he hit Dan like that. He was like, yeah, like, it would the faithfuls or the traitors, they would act in this kind of way. And he was basically describing Dan.
Yeah.
And so Dan is just like looking at him. And I hate that Dan never really responds to discredit anything. But I guess in that moment he knew. So when his name came up in the tower, I wasn't surprised that he was like, yeah, no, Marcus is smart.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm pretty sure that he had a confessional where he was saying like, no, Marcus, he actually might be onto me more than I thought he was. Dan being kind of above the radar as a potential traitor, he probably feels like really paranoid, but in that instance, he was right. He was right.
Yeah. As my partner Jordan would say, he was too loud and too right. So rest in peace, Marcus.
Rest in peace, Marcus. No, but honestly, great move because he given any more momentum.
Yep.
He really would have ran away with this game. It had nothing to do with his partner being on the show. It had everything to do with just his ability to read people in general. So I was really impressed with that.
But there is also an interesting side because he does have a partner on the show. The morning after it's announced Marcus was murdered. Okay. At first I was like, okay, I was respecting Larsa at first because I was like, all right, she not crying like this man's really dead. But then I was like, I felt like she was working on it though. I feel like she was really trying to get there.
I felt like she wanted it. She wanted it, but couldn't give it. You know what I mean? Like she wanted to sell it, but she didn't. She also can't oversell it because if you oversell it, now it highlights you. It kind of reminds me of like blood versus water situation. Like when your loved one gets voted out, you kind of have to act like, oh yeah, guys, like that was right to do. You know what I mean? Like you kind of have to pivot initially. So I think she was kind of trying to save her game a little bit, but if she was still obviously hurt.
Yeah. Now, Alan, I love our host so much. I wanted him to be a gay villain. I wanted him to toss Marcus' picture on the floor and have a little quip like he usually does, but he took it so easy on this straight couple and just kindly handed Marcus' picture to Larsa.
Yeah, and I mean, He's Michael Jordan's son, you know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
but at the but at the end of the day, like I'm a huge basketball fan, but at the end of the day, it's like, man, they should have made that more theatric. I felt like,
Absolutely.
I do feel like they kind of took it easy just handing her the photo, but maybe she was already emotional and they didn't want to trigger her, but whatever,
Maybe.
you give her a pass, I guess.
Yeah. All right. People are talking now after the breakfast. Trishelle says that Dan is suspicious for not giving any info ever. So on her radar. But then she said he might just be reserved. So a little benefit of the doubt. Parvarti listens to all of this and was just like, oh, Dan is struggling. CT is scared for his life, y'all. He saw bananas go out and he thinks he is up next. What do you think of that?
Okay, so I'll talk about CT and then we can talk about Dan again. But like, I feel like that is like the worst thing that can happen to somebody that's like a bigger threat, like an obvious big threat, right? Sometimes you're not everyone's obvious big threat, right? But because he was on, multiple like times he was that guy, he's automatically putting on that archetype without it necessarily needing to be a thing. Because I haven't heard his name really at all from the Traitors. So he's kind of like creating all this paranoia within himself, and it's kind of like, just be cool, man. You're all right. But so with that, and then the whole Dan situation, like I'm glad that Parv was privy to that conversation so that she could kind of tip him off, because I feel like up until that moment, he was thinking that he was doing all right outside of the Marcus situation. So it's a lot.
I totally agree. I was like, CT, like no one's talking about you, so like kind of chill. But I think also like the challenge people, especially the veterans, are probably so used to like being the big dogs. And he was like, oh my God, one of us just got chopped.
Right.
Larsa asked Dan who he thinks is a traitor. Dan said, he's not a vibe person. He's about action. And he hoped there would be a tie in the murders to figure it out. And Larsa's just like, I think it's a man.
Yeah. It was like a subliminal dig,
Yeah.
but Dan, again, like he is not really helping himself out. He looks so sus in these moments. Like he looks so suspicious. He's not really like saying like, okay, well, like I feel like a woman would think it was a man. You know what I'm saying? Like just give some type of reverse Uno card, man. Like you gotta give it out. Because he's just been sitting and taking it. Like I really have, outside of them going for the shield and that one challenge, you got to do as much work to secure or like save yourself as you're doing to get all these other people out, and that happens in the social game. His social game is trash right now to me.
It's really bad.
Like it's really bad, man. Like thank God for Parvati and Phaedra. Thank God.
Yeah. Oh my God. All right. So we got a new mission. The cast is in a graveyard. They need to go grave digging for gold, and they need to find tools around the graveyard to help dig that gold out. Now, Ekin Sue and Larsa, they want shields. And if any player gets caught in searchlights that are moving around, they get eliminated. Now, I thought that was so cool.
Very cool challenge, honestly. Like the whole grave robbing aspect of it. I love a good heist movie, anything like that. So I was here for it. But then also having the elimination piece, it really kind of brings the strategy, portion into the game, like who goes at what time, the opportunities for shields, like the people that go first, where's your head at, like, so there was so many layers to this challenge. I was really a big fan.
Totally. Whoever is making up these games, just I hope they get praised. So good.
So good.
All right. So John, John's the first to be eliminated, child. He was not long for this game. So, but my thing is, did you notice how this man hopped away? He was like hopping away after they said he was eliminated. And I'm like, you could just run at this point. Like, what?
Honestly, like, even like he's had a couple moments like that where I'm just like, what? Like, even when they were about to go to bed one time, and I believe it's Ken, he was like, hey, the rooms are up this way. He like had walked past the steps, and he's like, hey, man, up this way. And he's like, oh, okay. And like, I don't know if he's been drinking or what. Hey, he could just be having the time of his life. Who knows, you know? But
and they don't really sleep in those bedrooms, so it's also like, oh, okay, yeah,
right, sure. Exactly.
All right, so next, CT, MJ, Parvati, they get eliminated, but Bergie, he starts noticing something, and Bergie from Love Island USA, he's like, oh, these lights are moving in a pattern, and at first, no one's listening to Bergie.
Because who would listen to Burgerlicious? The guy that couldn't get untied from the rope. I mean, there's certain things like you only have a little bit of time to make a first impression. A leader was not Bergie, you know?
Yes.
But once he started...
But eventually they learn.
Preaching it. Yeah. It's like, I'm glad that he didn't give up. Because he was saying that in his confessionals, like, this is my chance to redeem myself and everything like that.
Yep.
I really want to be known as somebody that doesn't have to be told what to do. I can make my own decisions. I can be a leader. And he knocked it out of the park, this challenge. He did.
Absolutely. He needed this. So
yeah, he did. Bad. Real bad.
And they start adding money to the pot, but eventually Bergie, which I still feel like, oh, he's still Bergie. He gets eliminated.
Yeah. It was, I mean, he was doing a lot of the work though, you know, and I feel like he was doing the mental work, he was navigating, and then he was, you know, also collecting bags. So I feel like he was kind of hoping that somebody would be his eyes while he was doing what he had to do. And they didn't really, they kind of like let him down a little bit, but it was okay. You know, they got a decent amount with him on the field, and people remembered that, you know.
Totally. Phaedra said, not my Burgerlicious, not my baby. Well, your baby is eliminated. So next.
Right.
Ikensu and Janelle, man. All right. So Ikensu, like I said, wanted this shield. Janelle, queen of taking shields. She don't care. So now it looks like Janelle was in there first, going for whatever.
She was definitely there first. And Ikensu, she made that up. That's how I felt. I'm like, girl, wait, what? Were you not in? And I know when she watches it back, she's gonna be like, oh, because sometimes the adrenaline, you know, you think that you was moving quicker than you were and everything like that. But she basically tried to take the shield from Janelle.
She sure did.
Found out very quickly that she was not one of them ones. That's what happened. Like, that's how it looked like to me.
Absolutely.
So that was interesting that she tried to paint the narrative against Janelle, but Janelle shut all that down. She's like, girl, no.
She sure did. Yeah. It was interesting though, seeing all of them retell the situation.
Right, because hey, look, telephone is a real thing.
Yeah.
So she's over here talking her piece, the other people talk, but we don't know what was happening, you know, in transition. You know, like we have like lockdown periods where in between cameras ain't rolling, we're not allowed to talk, but stuff still happens in between those times, you know. So she could have like showed somebody like her arm, or showed like be like, oh man, like she pushed me or something when she came off or whatever. Like who? Janelle? What? Oh, okay. And it's like a small moment like that. So I don't know, like, but she made that up, girl. She made that up.
I love Iken. I watched Love Island and I enjoy Janelle from Big Brother, but this was a wild showdown, and I was just like, okay, I don't know if you misremembered, or like you said, with the adrenaline, or you're doing this on purpose. Either way, it's interesting. I'm not as invested, so whoever wins.
I feel like she just got embarrassed, and she was trying to make it seem like she had a fighting chance when she didn't. Like point blank, period.
It was never hers.
That was Janelle's shield the whole time.
So next, MJ tells people she would vote out Dan because he's quiet and hasn't talked about a single person or thing. Brandon. Peter from The Bachelor. This man just wants to play. Like, he's kind of giving that van life, like, so influencer from season 1. He's just so excited.
No, I like him a lot. He brings the energy. You know, he's a very bro kind of person, and I feel like if that's who he is in real life, then I would love to get a beer with him. But if it's not and it's a strategy, I feel like it's a really good avatar for sure.
Yeah. He comes up with the worst plan with Kevin, who is from Bling Empire and is like barely here. But he's like, hey, let's like target each other in this next ceremony. That's gonna do something. And it's like, why would you do that?
So okay, so can I say that actually isn't, I feel like it's not a bad idea, but for them it's a bad idea.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Because they're so low profile, it's like, why bring any attention to you? However, if you say the Traitors, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It would be probably better for them to have some type of feud type thing going on, maybe running the risk of potentially one of them getting voted out. But if you can sell it and like hype other people, kind of like, okay, we had a bunch of names come out, just make it so that a bunch of names are always out and one of them you might get one vote. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, well, that's, and if it was always like somebody like a traitor throwing out a name or something like that, it kind of keeps you in the conversation without making it so that you're going to be the one that's actually gone. But it's like if you're below the radar, like how Dan was, it can be a little bit too much, you know? So in the conversation, but not where it's an actual threat for you to go. I feel like that's where they were trying to go with it, but it doesn't make any sense because they're not really relevant to the game right now. You know what I mean? But so they're thinking a little bit too far ahead. But I remember pausing it right there and being like, okay, like that's a different perspective. It's like, okay, well, if we're coming for each other and we're like accused, then but nobody really agrees with us. It's like, okay, we can kind of like stay on the radar, but not really be like the vote. Right. But I don't know. It would take a lot of like orchestrating. They would definitely take more than just them to do something like that and pull it off. So I haven't really seen their strategy like ability to
Right.
Cool idea.
We'll talk about the votes because the votes are crazy. Me trying to write down the votes for notes. Wild.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, but let's get back to Larsa. So Larsa says Dan is a gamer, unlike Max, and he's too calm so he can be a killer. Who thought that Larsa Pippen would be Dan Gheesling's biggest up onto him immediately? Like,
but some people are just good. They got good guts. You know what I mean? Like she's just one of those people. Like, I don't know if she's that person maybe in her normal life, like the friend that people come for advice. She kind of gives that a little bit, like she would be like the empath of her circle a little bit, just based on how she's been acting in the game. She's like, yeah, I don't trust it. You know, like, and everybody's kind of like, okay, well, why? And they're really kind of leaning in, which kind of like speaks to her energy and like how she kind of like can carry a little bit of pull. So yeah, I didn't peg her to be somebody that was actually going to be right a lot in the game. Like, and that just might be my own bias and stuff like that. Like, I didn't think she was gonna be the one to be like on the trail, but she's got it. She's got that scent packed.
I will say, I think your theory about Larsa Pippen being the empath, she is a Real Housewives of Miami.
Yeah.
She is dating Michael Jordan's son. Like,
right.
I think the biggest thing is that Marcus was already on to Dan. Marcus gets murdered. I think she's never gonna like let that go of like whatever he said to her.
Did they talk? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like that's one thing. It's like, but but did they like? Was it like for sure? You know what I mean? Like I know like the speculation and stuff like that. People's names, people's names get thrown out all the time. You know what I'm saying? But was it like okay, if I'm gone, it's Dan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, did that happen?
That's
I don't know.
I will ask to see if I can get Marcus and ask that question, but I just have a feeling like that could be at play.
Right. If it is, he needs to run with it a little harder then.
Yeah.
You know, because the slight suspicious. I feel like she's a little bit too passive with her finger pointing. If it's Dan and you know it's Dan, then make a better case for it being Dan. Him being quiet, okay, that's one. But okay, Marcus suspected you and he's gone. You know, have we heard her really say that to anybody, like repetitively?
No, we haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Dan says he can do better in talking because he says that to I think it's Larsa. And then, you know, he says, but this is just my personality. So yeah, we're seeing very that
political answer.
All right, so people are starting to vote. There's 10 votes for Max. There's 2 votes for Dan, 2 votes for Ekin-Su, 2 for Kevin, 1 for Janelle, and 1 for Peter. So that's where we're at. It's probably the weirdest votes that we have gotten. So I don't know, but Max he's the one that goes. How are you feeling about that?
I feel like it was like too many false flags and it was just like random at that point. Like, especially like Parv's decision to put Ken's name, right? Didn't she vote Ken? That was interesting to me too. I was like, I mean, I guess because she knew that it wasn't, you know, obviously she knows who the traitors are. So just trying to maybe spice it up a little bit. But like, what if Ken would have went home, you know, like randomly, you know? So I don't know. There wasn't really a lot of strategy behind that. It was just a bunch of he say, she say. And then Max, he just ended up on the, you know, the wrong side of the revolver on that, to be honest. Like, it was hard to even figure out what was going to happen.
Yeah, we're seeing Trishelle has some pull. I think she's mainly behind these 2 because Max was not messing with her after Pepper. So for her, he had to go. So, but we'll see if anything stops.
The part where he said like that was your fault, and she like got up and cried and left. I was like, it was like I don't understand why she was so emotional. It's like, girl, like now you want to play the victim? That's weird. You were really like guns blazing in there, you know. But I mean, for them to be out back to back, I feel like Trishelle is kind of like unbeknownst to her, like building a resume, like a traitor resume. You know, she's doing a lot of the work for the traitors.
She absolutely might as well be a traitor at this point.
Her and Deontay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, Max, he leaves the dance floor. Back to Dancing with the Stars for him.
Right.
MJ tells Sandra, which was very interesting, and Deontay that they're influential and they have to be careful. So apparently, maybe it's not Trishelle who's the most influential when it comes to these things. I guess it's Deontay and Sandra, which we didn't even see Sandra do a lot.
Yeah, no, Sandra, I feel like she kind of always has like a kind of like a presence to her and stuff like that in these types of settings, but I haven't really seen her do too much, which I feel is the best thing she could do, honestly, is just to kind of go with the group. And you see that in Survivor, in her like phrase is anybody but me, you know? So I don't know if she has, you know, an inkling of, you know, who things might be. She hasn't really talked strategy from her perspective yet either. We haven't seen it at all. She just listens and gathers information. But that's also what she does in Survivor too, especially before the merge. She don't really be doing the whole, you know, stick and pony show. She's just like, oh,
Yeah.
Oh, you know, like just like a bunch of like very, very attentive listening. So I'm not surprised. But Wilder for sure, like he is really, really persuasive. Like he's
Mm-hmm.
really, really persuasive, and he's just really good at coming across as super genuine. Like, hey, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, this is what's been, leading me to distrust you, and
Mm-hmm.
I hope that I'm wrong, but like
Yeah.
he's very like loving and like reels you in. Like I love listening to him talk. For him to be a boxer, it's like, wow, this guy's
Yeah.
really, really prophetic, like in the way that he speaks. So
Mm-hmm.
I agree with the assessment for sure.
Yeah. I hope he sticks around. I hope everyone sees with the emotion that he's so obviously a faithful. Like I don't know if
Yeah.
I don't know if they picked him if he would have the heart to do it.
Yeah,
Honestly,
like, oh, that could go both ways though, because it's like
yeah,
either he's that good
yeah,
or he's that emotional. And we
yeah,
know that he's that emotional because he's not a traitor. But they don't know that, so it could go into like, oh wow, like he's selling almost too much, even though it is completely genuine. Like there's so much of that goes on. It's like, is this real
yeah,
or is this a game?
yeah.
And that's one of those moments
He
where
could,
you're wrestling with that.
if he became a traitor, he could be another Cody because Cody he was shook and unraveled last
Yeah.
season as a traitor. He could not take. Could not take.
Right. No,
So
100%.
So
That's a good one.
afterwards, Deontay sits down and he questions if he can go on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just
I
starts
mean, it's rough
cracking.
because, like, I know him and Max were close, like, in the house. Like, they were, like,
Yeah,
buddies. But at the same time, in a house where you have no friends, anybody can go at any time,
yeah,
legitimately. So he's thinking he's doing the right thing, falling on, having his friend fall on his sword because he's an enemy anyway, and he ends up being wrong.
yeah,
That's the worst. That person's voice is gone for the rest of the time you're there. That presence is gone, and that it was by your hands.
yeah,
That's a hard pill to swallow. I mean, like, yeah,
yeah,
it's TV, but he does have to be in the house the rest of the show without his buddy, and it's
yeah,
his fault. And who
yeah,
knows, like, if they're gonna be able to recover, after the show from it or what. Sometimes people take it really hard, the fallouts and stuff. So,
boy.
he could probably just been reflecting, and obviously the bros, he's emotional, so it's a upsetting time. It's an
Yeah.
upsetting time. Yeah.
Now, Phaedra.
Yeah.
Phaedra's scary. Phaedra's very scary because this lady is murdering these people at night, and she sits there and wipes this man's
Wipes
tears.
his tears.
No
And
one
she
can
hugged
hurt him at
she hugged
any moment.
Larsa too. Phaedra is so, like, I love it. I love it. Oh my god, I love it. It's like, because when Marcus who was hugging Larsa?
Phaedra.
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 Because
Everyone
you
is
want to be
Phaedra's
so
baby.
in there that
Everyone's Phaedra's baby. She got nicknames for
yeah.
these people.
Oh man, she's doing it's the Cerie blueprint, man. Like, she's so much of an auntie, she's so
Yeah,
much of a mom, she's so much of your friend. You don't realize you're done until you're dead. Like,
exactly.
that's the persona, and it's so perfect for these types of shows because everybody's looking for a comforter. You saw it in our
Mm-hmm.
season with Mama J.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is looking for somebody that they are like, this is the archetype that I would trust in my regular life.
Yep.
Everybody has a mom that they can relate to, usually, or a mother first maternal figure. So
Mm-hmm.
Phaedra is playing her ass off. I love it. I love it. Like, her
Uh-huh.
hugging Larsa, her wiping his tears while he's crying.
I was like, yo, she's so scary. She's so
That's
scary.
awesome, man. Like, hey.
All right. So another good twist for season 2, because this is honestly a problem in season 1, is that there was hardly any risk for the traitors. So truly the faithfuls could just be spinning themselves,
Yeah.
talking about people's breathing
Right.
for clues.
Exactly.
But now they have to murder in plain sight.
Right.
So they
Loved
get
it.
the task. There's poison chalices in different books in the library. So they have to go and get that, and they have to make someone drink out of the poison chalice to be murdered. Now, Parvati and Dan, they're like chit chatting in one of the rooms. I don't know if it's the library or not. They should actually give us a good landscape. So,
Right, yeah,
you
something.
know, but they're chit chatting. In my head, I'm like, where's Phaedra? But then that later comes up. So they're
Yeah.
like, who should we murder? And they were like, MJ. I love that Parvati is like, you want me to go get her? I could get her.
Right. Like, 'cause she don't care. Like, that's the like when you heard Dan say it's Black Widow time, baby. Because
Yeah.
we know, like, Parvati is a villain. Like,
Yeah.
there's no part. I mean, of course she's a mom now and she has like a life and everything like that. But when I was growing up watching her, she was like Harley Quinn, to
Yeah.
the Joker. So I love seeing her be like, okay, I get to put this hat on now, and I'm so excited about it, and I'm about to just go for it. But yeah, like I feel like MJ was definitely a good decision, because she is, she's
Yeah.
trying to really like force people to see.
Truly.
I
But
don't know, like this whole challenge was really really crazy.
it was. Dan says, that would be too obvious. So maybe they don't do MJ. Then he's like, how about Sheree? Parvati says Phaedra would be pissed. But then
Yeah,
they're kind of giving, we don't care. So I was like,
yeah,
that's going to be very interesting. Then they
yeah,
are like, how about John? John,
man. Like my boy can't catch a break, man. He's falling down
no.
in challenges. His name has been thrown out multiple times. It's really interesting. But I thought it was even more interesting that there is an obvious alliance between a traitor and a faithful, being Phaedra and Sheree.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay. And then even we see that Phaedra is in the confessionals like, y'all better not.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
that's interesting. And I thought that them knowing that, it's like, okay, why wouldn't you get out Sheree?
Yeah.
You
I
know
mean,
what I'm
they all
saying?
have it. They all have
Mhm.
it because Dan says Janelle is his girl and he was
Yeah.
considering putting her on. So it's like, yeah, it makes sense, but they all have it. So it's very interesting that they were really considering taking out Phaedra's. So,
Yeah.
I loved how this played out. So in the end, Phaedra said that she left it to them because she doesn't hang out with them. It would have been very suspicious if she was caught with them, which is very interesting.
Right. No, she was 100% right about that. Honestly, they have nothing in common on paper. So if she just randomly starts hanging out with, Dan and Parv, people are gonna be like, okay, like something's going on. So
Yeah.
I thought that it was really, really smart of her to kind of hang back and just watch. She already knows what's going on. There's no need for her to be the person that pulls the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
She just needs to be aware of what happens. And
Mm-hmm.
either way, she's going to see it happen, or they're going to have to tell her, or whatever's going to happen, off camera, or potentially, they just see at breakfast. But she didn't need to be involved. And I thought that was really smart on her part.
Yes. Now,
Yeah.
Harley, she gets the chalice from the book. She goes to the bar room and she
Yeah.
starts playing bartender, like, who wants what? And John is right there. John is looking like a sitting duck, but
Yeah.
I think her big thing was just like, who's going to drink out of this dirty looking chalice, honestly?
For
And
sure.
Phaedra and Sheree are there, and Phaedra's watching very closely, making sure Sheree ain't gonna get
Ain't gonna
anywhere.
drink it. Yeah.
And I love that. I like Phaedra's.
I love that too. Honestly, I like that she's sticking up for her.
Mhm.
But Sheree honestly would have probably been a better, because she's such a low profile player. Now
Mhm.
with Janelle, Dan's alliance member, she's more high profile. So her getting knocked out, it probably would put a target more so on Dan because she's close to Dan. And
Mhm.
get rid of your friends, so that it doesn't really go on you. That's kind of like a obvious, play and tactic. But
Mhm.
I don't know. You could say the same thing, I guess, about Phaedra. Like if Sheree goes, it's like, okay, well, who was close to Sheree? Phaedra. Okay, well, but I don't think that anybody would think
No,
that Phaedra would get Sheree. So I
no.
think that that would have been a solid move for everybody. No offense to Sheree, love Sheree, but I feel like that if Phaedra would have kind of like stood down a little bit, not only would it have cemented her, trust and everything, like we're traitors all the way, it would have just been like, okay, this is somebody that is kind of a below the radar player anyway, so it doesn't really ruffle too many feathers going forward with a challenge that's already so hard to do and so high profile, to do. So, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting.
It is. I'm for Sheree sticking around. Phaedra
Yeah.
wants to keep her around. I think the Bravo people were the first to go first season, so I'm kind of rooting for them as underdogs this season.
Very well, yeah.
And I'm not watching Real Housewives as much anymore, but wouldn't it be juicy if this season ends and it's Sheree and Phaedra and whoever else at the end?
That would be really cool. It would be really cool.
Takes the money from her. Think of the storyline later when they have to go to like Real Housewives Ultimate Girls trip. Like,
yeah, no, you're right. You're 100% right. Like, and I'm don't get me wrong, I'm rooting for everybody black. I'm just saying, like, at the end of the day, it's cool. It would be better for Phaedra's game.
Yeah,
I would say to do it earlier rather than later. I would say that, but I understand, keeping having an alliance member on the faithful side to plead your case and watch your back is also very important. So, and I'm sure like anytime Dan's name is coming up, Janelle's like, I don't know, no, Dan's my boy. Same thing with anytime Phaedra's name comes up, Sheree's probably doing the same thing for her. So I understand both sides, but it's like getting rid of people that are close to you so that you can just go ahead and just start knocking them off. That would probably be easier, for Phaedra. Just get it done early.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, Parvati ditches that room, and she goes to the next room, which is like the kitchenette area. This is what we got in the room. This is where we go for clue. So it's MJ, it's Peter, it's Rochelle, it's Ikensu, it's Bergie, it's then Janelle in the kitchenette, Parvati with the chalice.
Yeah.
Now she's looking around and she's like, I think I found my target, and she starts moving towards someone and cut. We have a cliffhanger. Which one of these people, Dan's also in the room, but obviously Dan's not getting murdered. Which one of these people do we think she murders?
I think it's either Peter or Bergie. And that's just because of them being guys and her making it seem like the dirtiness of the cup was a big deal, and like, okay, how can I? And plus, if we all know, Parvati, she's the Black Widow. Coercing men to do what she wants is her specialty.
Absolutely.
So her having a female target in this case don't really make sense. She's the Black Widow. So I'm thinking it's gonna be a guy. Okay. And I'm thinking because of those reasons, maybe Bergie, because he self-proclaimed is a little gullible.
Yeah, he is.
Like I would hate to see him go because he just got his wind and everything like that. But also him leaving, it doesn't really ruffle too many feathers. I feel like, so it's kind of a safe go, similar to like a John or a Ken would be. He's been kind of low profile outside of the challenge situation. So I think maybe Bergie more than Peter, but we'll see. Yeah.
I think I agree. I agree. I think it might be Bergie, but
it's sad because I like him. He's cool, Bergalicious, Def. But I mean,
but he got his story. He got his story, his full arc.
Right. True. He had his moment, and I feel like he's out.
Yeah. Interesting. I will I do wonder then if any of these people left will be that suspicious then if like the chalice had anything to do, because that's also the hard part is like everyone's already looking for something and you have to do this in plain sight, and it just so happens the person who drinks out of this is the one who goes. But then
see, Parvati kind of took care of that though early. She was like, "Oh, I'm bartending," so everybody saw her bartending. Right, but everybody saw her bartending. We don't know how many drinks are involved in these type of situations, or if they're chilling, how long they're drinking, whatever. So everybody saw Parvati handing a drink to someone completely normally. You know what I'm saying? And all of them that drank it, besides one person, will be there the next day. So it's like narrowing it down to a cup is crazy. If someone, I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, but if someone has that type of thought to be like, oh, wait, no, because Bergie was drinking out of a tin cup. Mine was plastic or whatever. Like, that's crazy. So I feel like taking the risk of being the bartender, it's like, okay, like I'm sure like Bananas, he did it when he was there. He was like, all right, like everybody, shots or whatever. There's been multiple people kind of in that role, hooking people up. So Parvati, I feel like that was really smart for her to position herself like that in plain sight with everybody in the most populated room, and then kind of meander her way to see. But man, next level, man, so smart. Like, but that was the only way. Otherwise, it's weird. Like you walking up randomly to somebody with a weird cup. Like you gotta be the bartender. I'm not trusting you.
Yeah. Well, that's it for episode 3. What is our beautiful black moment for this episode? I think Phaedra comforting Deontay.
Yes, definitely, and Phaedra sticking up for Sheree.
Yeah,
we love a girl's girl. Like especially like just how it was really just like the looks that she was giving. It was so obvious. She's just like looking at them like not this one, And so I really loved seeing their sisterhood play out on the screen in that way, Good moment.
I'm trying to think if anything counts as a chaotic bi moment, but
chaotic bi moment.
You know what? Parvati being so like, can I get her? Like, let's just kill MJ. Like her whole energy of like, she was just like, give me a name, I am ready. And Dan's like, wait, let me think.
Right. She's just like, I can do it. I can pull any girl right now. Like, it's up. So you're right. She did have that kind of like, okay, put me in, coach kind of energy. Yep. So yeah, I feel like that could be the chaotic bi moment for sure.
Totally.
Goes to Parv.
Shout out to Parv.
Yeah.
That's it for this recap. Sabiyah, I enjoyed this so much.
This has been a joy, Nicole. Thank you so much for having me. I'll be back anytime. I love doing these little breakdowns and stuff like that. Because I mean, I don't know. I love thinking, okay, what's like the obvious thing, but like, what is the player's perspective? And now having like this new like insight, like that was my biggest thing about being on Survivor. I just want to see how it worked. Like where are the cameras? How are they catching these moments? Like what is the background, And so now watching all of these shows, I always, have that perspective to fall back on. It's like, okay, man, she probably didn't even know that he was, you know what I'm saying? Or they probably couldn't even talk right then or whatever. Like, so it's been really, really cool being on this side of the land. So I'm happy to be a part of anything that shares that.
Absolutely. Here on Black by Reality, we talk about reality shows with a Black queer lens. So absolutely would love to have you back on whenever. Where can people follow you or what? Yeah, and anything you want to do.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So for Instagram, it's going to be at the Solar Poppy, solar like your soul, not like the sun. And Twitter or the X, whatever we call it, it is at Aunt Beezy. So I'm an auntie. I don't have any kids, But yeah. Aunt Beezy, Beeezy. So yeah, give me a follow. Talk to me. Follow, I always try to follow back, especially people if you DM me and be like, hey, like I saw you on Bi Reality, give me a follow back. I'm not stingy with the follow backs. It's been such an influx, and you can see like the difference. But I swear it's not because I'm not checking. It's just like if you don't reach out and I don't have that relationship, people can say if I have a conversation with you in the DMs, I'm gonna give you the follow back or whatever. So yeah.
Absolutely. All right, that is our episode. Thank you guys for watching. Please comment, like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And see you guys for the next episode recap. Bye.